Dr. Pete checking in. Hey, I wanted to bring up a really cool theme that sort of continues to get sort of touched and brought up at and probed as I do interview after interview. And one of those questions that I've noticed, this trend, is something like, is the idea and the point of verifying something that's faith-based sort of steal from the spirituality of it? Does the fact that we're getting health benefits steal from the spirituality of the practice? And I'm going to say, no to both to an extent. I mean, I do think we have to keep in mind that doubting Thomas, was kind of rebuked by Christ saying, hey, blessed are those that really don't need to verify and believe. But I will say something that was coming from the source, from Jesus Christ himself. It wasn't like 2,000 years later from a friend of a friend of a friend. It was from the source itself. So I think that's powerful. However, I'll also say this. I mean, the Orthodox Church, it's no coincidence. We have apostolic succession. Every bishop was made by a bishop, was made by a bishop, and go all the way back in the diptychs to Jesus himself. Pretty powerful. Now, in the climate and environment in the United States where we have literally tens of thousands of religions, many of which track their timeline back to the Reformation, verifying things probably becomes much, much more important as people follow different charismatic leaders who oftentimes are proved to not be so authentic. But I'll say this, faith and works should not be opposed to one another. They are a dichotomy. They are interrelated. One without the other is naked. That debate between Catholics and Protestants is such an old one and such a distorted one. You need both. And I'll say when it comes to prayer and fasting, you need both. It's the same thing. And I don't think we should criticize God's creation where by pursuing the practice for the sake of discipline and faith and we get health benefits, somehow we're like, wait, I might be doing it for the wrong reason right now. Wait, what are you guys talking about? That's like what God does to sort of sweeten the deal. It sweetens the medicine that we need. The medicine cures you. It's there's nothing wrong with healing. So I think we need to realize that this fasting practice should be tied in with our spiritual life and prayer, of course. But I, as a doctor in 2024, am trying to remind the populace that often resists fasting and has forgotten its reason and forgotten its purpose and, frankly speaking, is not benefiting from the health and medicinal benefit of the practice to say, hey, guys, if we have to verify, just like Thomas had to verify before you believe, then that's what we have to do. I'd rather do that than have you never believe. Such a funny dilemma. In some ways it's like, oh, well, if I was just pure enough, then I would believe. But since I'm not, I guess I'll just not believe. And that's better than believing through less than ideal means. Something like that. So long story short is, yes, I am a doctor verifying best practices in fasting in the Orthodox Church so that we all can get both body and soul benefit when we undertake the practice. And to remind the 300 million and who knows someday 8 billion people out there that fasting is an extraordinary undertaking that should be linked with the spiritual aim, but at the same time there's an embedded code underneath it that results in true healing of our souls and bodies, literally our bodies. And there's no coincidence for that, and I don't think that's a cop-out. That's just how God engineered the world. It's like getting upset at God that there's gravity. That just is. So, fair points about not being a doubting Thomas. Fair points about sort of worrying that we're going for the sake of health and not for spirituality. But my last point too is our health. We spend something like more billions in America, I think it's over 60 billion a year at this point, than the entire GDP of Hungary. This is extraordinary. What it means to me is that most of these diets are failed. They're not sustained. And so what I'm trying to say is that the church supports the fasting effort in a way that we can remain healthy for the course of our lives. And when you separate prayer from fasting, you can't sustain it. And it needs to be something you do all the time. Now remember, the Athos diet's a 48-day fast, but then I'm encouraging people to pursue the fast as well throughout the year when they're just doing their normal Orthodox fasting. And for those that are unorthodox, that's Mondays and Wednesdays. That's, weeks leading up to Christmas, weeks leading up to Lent, the fisherman's apostles fast in the summer, the Dormition fast in the August, so on and so forth. So it adds up to like a half to 2/3 of the year, depending on the year. Pretty powerful stuff. So by all means, we're doing this for the ultimate benefit, which is for our spiritual lives, but at the same time, we're trying to recognize that God has put in sort of a sweetness to the medicine for healing of our bodies as well.